Yeah.
I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won.
Yeah.
I hope my team they won.
Yeah. Man.
I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won.
Yeah.
I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Or let me just say, Mike Washington is back on assignment, so we're gonna have to catch up with him a little bit next week. So we'll keep it rolling, see if we can get it done and make him proud today. So let me just jump right to it. Professor Bishop, how you doing, man?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well. We got championships this weekend. We got rivalries this weekend. It's time to jump into it.
Man, let's get into some of those championships and let's get into some of these rivalries. This should be good. Welcome to episode 205 of Inside the HBCU Sports Live Radio Show and Podcast. The show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports from institutions large and small. From the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KSHA 1230 AM studios with the Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Man, Texas Southern has a home game this weekend. Should be last home game of the year. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THC Agency. THC Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. So that was pretty hot in terms of what's going on there. Before we get into some of this news today, let me give a shout out to Kevin Kroom and Tori Clark, who invited myself and some other colleagues, including Dr. Courtney Flowers over there at Texas Southern University that runs the sports studies program with me. She's over the graduate program, getting it done in a lot of ways. One of my mentors, Dr. Billy Hawkins, and colleague, Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes, Courtney Gaucher from athletics were on there getting it done. So we got a chance to talk for N4A as they hosted the HBCU LRI subcommittee educational panel, the student athletes experience at HBCUs before and after graduation. So we got to speak to some college athletes, as I like to use the term, from the different conferences. And so obviously this included all 5 conferences. So I really appreciated the fact that they made sure that they were inclusive from that perspective. Obviously, the oldest, CIAA, SIAC at the Division II level. And then at the Division I level, you had the SWAC and the MEAC. And also at the NIA level, they had GCAC. So shout out for that opportunity. It is on YouTube, so you can go check it out if you want to see a little bit of the dialogue on the academic side. I thought it was good to be a part of that, and that was great. We're going to get into it hot and heavy. We have a guest that's coming in that is going to bring a different perspective when I release the poll rankings today. I can tell you there is a change at the top. So we'll see what that looks like, and you can see where the change affected who was changed at the top. But that top 5 might be changed a little bit, so stick around for that. We'll get into that in the second quarter, as they say at the show. But as we drop it, let's get into it and see what some of the hot news of the day, what are some frameworks going around. Let me go to Charles and see where you want to start it. Before I do that, let me give some shout out to love to the lab lecturers out there. We hadn't got deep into that. They're bringing it hot and heavy today. Michael Ford lectured dinner time from the Bayou Shrimp and Grits. Boombox classes Saturday. In the life get. I like it. Representing Kappa Alpha Psi. That's right. I see it. Troy Lamont Coleman, he's registered his rivalry smack talk. Quote, about to drop that L on South Carolina State University, end quote, Aggies in the house. That's right. I like it. Wendy Jenkins Bishop always supporting us at the highest level. Nuenzo Phillips, is in the darn building. Yes, indeed. Ricky Burton, we in the lab, baby. Yes. Shout out to the sororities out there. I see that, Bishop. That's how you hang in there. The White Moors in the house. Good evening, Dean and professors. Thank you all to the veterans for your service. That is certainly appropriate. Putting that out there. Much thanks. Jason Thornton, and as HBCUs, we certainly represent well in any categories, and that includes the militaries and the veterans for their service. So Chad Cooper, good evening, professors from Baton Rouge. Stop by Chicken Shack Saturday, Professor Bishop. There you go. Chicken Shack. Well done. You might have to debut that and tell us what you think about that. Arby Parker, good evening, inside the HBCU Sports Lab. And when you go to the Chicken Shack, make sure you told them Chad Cooper sent you, and we in the lab. If they want to get on board and give a shout out, we certainly will make sure we can give them some love. Varick Williams, what's up? Go Jags. Yeah, this
all these Jags
in the house.
Wow.
Nika Thomas. Yeah, Hopkins in here. Einstein Maddox. That's Thomas Maddox. Jason Thornton says good evening. Stephen A. Miller. Oh, yeah. A.D. Drew. Prayers to A.D. and the family as he's dealing with it. Certainly.
Prayers to A.D.
Holly's on it. Battle Purple and Gold this weekend. Yes, it is. Kay Johnson says late for class, but let's go. That's right, but you bring it. So some people have a little more privilege with the time when they come in when you're a regular. You don't even have to announce it. You just come on in because you sit in the front row anyway. It's the ones that sit in the back that try to sneak in that we tell them, because I always say, students, there's studies out there that tells you the students in the front get better grades than the students in the back. So it tends to be A students in the front, and we're not even going to talk about the grades further back, because I don't acknowledge anything under a B minus, and that's the privilege that I do. Charles can tell you about that. That's real talk in the classroom.
That's real talk.
Charles, what is some news in there?
Yeah, and again, I want to echo the sentiments of Happy Veterans Day. Be sure to stop by the pregame show page. We had an opportunity to talk to Donald Turley, who's a former Marine, who's now on the Jackson State football team, and he shared his thoughts with regards to being in the Marines Veterans Day and being on the Jackson State football team. So by all means, stop by the pregame show YouTube page to give a listen to Donald Turley. Let's take a look at some news going on today in the HBCU world, and this comes to us via HBCU Game Day. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Harrison Barnes provide sneakers for an HBCU, and this article is a great read. Brooklyn Nets Ford, and former MVP, was one of several NBA stars who provided sneakers for North Carolina Central prior to the start of its season on Tuesday. So Nets guard Kyrie Irving and Sacramento Kings guard Harrison Barnes provided some gear for the MEAC squad. So that's a nice story out there for some NBA players giving back to some HBCUs there.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Keep it going. Keep it getting done. Spread the wealth, spread the love. Let me get in there, since this is some good smack talk going back and forth. Varick Williams says, had great feelings about my Jags this week. Nothing gets our team going like Jay Stank. 9 in a row. Oh, man, shots fired. Phillips jumps back in here. Doc, just know this. JSU going to take our belt off and beat SU, lowercase, senseless Saturday, just like you got going down there with Varick. That was a lowercase J Stank. I just want to make sure that I acknowledge both of those. But yeah, it's getting good in here. I like this. So we might sway back and forth to make sure we get some of that out. Jamie Walker's in the house, making sure we shout him out. So Herbert Bolden is in here, big time Texas Southern alumni booster. So a lot going on. Let me turn it right back to you and see what else news is on your mind in terms of what's going on here. Before we get in there, I did want to talk about this. SWAC introduces the new football classic portfolio, Charles. I think this is fascinating and a great opportunity where you're marrying a lot of things together. I got to interview and talk to Charles a little more about this. He told me this was coming previously as we did a little bit of some consulting work about it, but then I turned it from a media perspective and just got some questions answered. So I do want to take a deeper dive in this. So SWAC introduces its first ever football classic in partnership with Pepsi and General Motors, GM, as part of the conference's effort to expand its portfolio. The inaugural SWAC football classic features a gridiron showdown between Alcorn State Braves and Jackson State University Tigers and will take place Saturday, November 20th, Veteran Memorial Stadium in Jackson, Mississippi. It's another rivalry game. A little ahead of ourselves, but I thought it was important to get this out of here. Quote, the Southwestern Athletic Conference is extremely excited about the partnership with Pepsi and General Motors for this unique branding opportunity. He continued, quote, through the SWAC football partnership, we plan to create a meaningful fan experience that will continue to elevate the overall level of engagements at our events. Our SWAC partners in commitment to growing the event, and we'll look forward to hosting of the inaugural meeting featuring Alcorn State and Jackson State. There are some things going forward. It's important because I know some people kind of question out there, was this about, moving the old classic that had various variations in terms of the name of it, the Soul Bowl and things of that nature. And no, this is essentially a one-time deal. And this is the best way to explain it. Will be like a game of the week type thing.
Okay.
So it will go around the conference. There'll be some of the hottest matchups where you'll feature different games. So to go to a particular campus, if you would. And it's a way to make sure money goes back directly to the hands of the schools in terms of sponsors. So with this being a home game, there will be funding directly going into Jackson State in terms of this. And it will be distributed across the campus over the next couple of years, and it will be most likely the way you would think about it when you see other conferences doing these games of the week. You'll see this throughout the season, but it's marrying the cultural aspect of what we use in the term we use with classics. Obviously, those sponsors with Pepsi and General Motors at a SWAC, they'll be happy because they'll get direct contact with fans in the big experience. The institutions will be happy because now they get extra additional media exposure associated with this, and they get the finances that are directly going to them for the game. Obviously, the conference office gets the additional exposure about putting this together. So that's something that I thought was fascinating. And you'll see that this will be another step in a direction as the media part of the conference steps up in terms of broadcast and what's next as you expand the opportunities for networks looking at trying to get a chance to showcase what some think is one of the hottest HBCU conferences out there. So I wanted to break that down a little bit for folks that had heard about it, but maybe wanted a little more into that news.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Wow.
Did you see the tiebreak information out there? You got any news on the tiebreak, either for the MEAC or SWAC? Have you had a chance to break that down? If you get a chance, would you expound on the tiebreak information that was shot out for either of the conferences?
Well, I know with regards to the SWAC, and I know you and I, we talked a little bit about what tiebreak scenarios, especially if Jackson State should clinch this weekend, if Prairie View should clinch this weekend, what the tiebreaker scenarios will look like. And you very astutely pointed out that it will go to, I believe, the fourth tiebreak should, both teams win this weekend. That essentially it goes to the national rankings of Jackson State and or Prairie View, and who would be the higher seed as to who would host the game. So that would, right now, should things play out, if Jackson State and Prairie View should clinch this weekend, Jackson State as it stands, if they win this weekend and against Alcorn, they would essentially host in Jackson, Mississippi. So a lot of football be played, but those are tiebreak scenarios we were talking about with regards to Jackson State and Prairie.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I'll break down all those tiebreakers just to close it out. As you said, if it plays out that way, at this point, just not to belabor the point, as you said, if things play out, so the teams that are still in the hunt, Florida A&M at 5-1 in the SWAC, they need the help. They need things to take place this weekend with Southern, as we had those folks jumping in here saying they're going to do their part. You need Southern to defeat Jackson State, and then you need it to happen again with their other rival, Alcorn State, and then FAMU would get in. So they're still in the mix, technically. Alcorn State, similarly, is still in the mix. They need some additional help. They can start it with themselves. They play Prairie View, and as you said, Prairie View wins, they clinch. Same with Jackson State, they play Southern, they clinch if they win that matchup. Essentially, because the head-to-head rule, they essentially have a 2-game lead. But Alcorn State would need to have Prairie View be defeated by them, and then lose the subsequent weekend or 2 weekends, because they actually play Thanksgiving weekend against Mississippi Valley. But if not, or if teams are tied, regardless, the first tiebreaker is head-to-head competition. At this case, if it's Jackson State and Prairie View undefeated, which would be the first case 2 teams come in conference race undefeated, it would be head-to-head. Well, those teams don't play. So you go to number 2, overall conference record versus common division and non-divisional opponents. Well, if they defeated, you don't have to look at that because there's no tiebreaker. You go to the third one, which is record versus non-divisional opponents. If you're undefeated, again, you skip down to that. And that's where, in my opinion, you go to tiebreaker 4, football championship subdivision coaches poll FCS rankings. Jackson State is higher. If they win out, there's no way they're going to drop below, even no matter if they lose close games. It would be hard for Prairie View to see that they would jump them. Technically, I guess that could happen if Prairie View just blows out everybody and they win close ones, but I don't see that. So that's where you get that scenario where a lot of folks are talking about Jackson State will likely do it. NCAA FCS simple rating is the 5th one, best point differential. The tied teams, common head-to-head matchups. If we went to that, 7-1 is best point differential between the teams. And finally, it could get to the point if everything is tied up, regardless, 2-3-way tiebreaker, then you would have the 8, which one is a coin flip, oddly enough. Before we get into this break, I did want to sneak it in. MEAC tiebreaker. You have essentially 3 teams in the race. You have Norfolk State, South Carolina State. Those are the 2 teams that have the clearest class. South Carolina State is at least clinched a part of the tiebreaker, but you still have, obviously, the Celebration Bowl bid on the line, and that's going to be determined over the next 2 weeks. North Carolina Central is still in the hunt. They can get a piece of it if things fall their way. So essentially what you have is if Norfolk State defeats Delaware State, then South Carolina State defeats Norfolk State. South Carolina State clinches the MEAC championship outright. South Carolina State goes to the Celebration Bowl. If you get that, that's the cleanest way to do it. South Carolina State would be undefeated in conference play 5-0. If Norfolk State wins out, North Carolina Central wins out. South Carolina State loses, obviously. Then Norfolk State, North Carolina Central, and South Carolina State would be declared co-champions. But Norfolk State would get the bid. And if Norfolk State wins out, North Carolina Central loses at least 1 game of their last 2. Norfolk State and South Carolina State are co-champions, but Norfolk State goes to the Celebration Bowl. If you're North Carolina Central and you win out, but Norfolk State loses to Delaware State, South Carolina State loses to Norfolk State, North Carolina Central, South Carolina State are co-champions, but South Carolina State goes to the Celebration Bowl based on head-to-head matchup. So that'll do it for us. Let's get into this break, and we'll be right back as we get into the poll rankings, and we'll see if you can bring it hot and heavy. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High-quality cigars plus personal customer service with Slow Burn. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. It's more than a mobile lounge. It's an environment and an experience rich in history, luxury, and personality. An elegant extension of any celebration occasion. It's the perfect escape and meeting place, a space where you can relax or enjoy a shared passion. Have Slow Burn plan your next big event, or before you are planning to celebrate your win over your athletic rival, you can shop our collections at www.slowburnwaco.com.
But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com And follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Professor Bishop and Mr. James Wesby. Brother Wesby, as we say around these parts, for those that understand that, he's a former drum major at Jackson State University. So we thought it was appropriate, as I do the poll rankings, that we get what we would call an expert in the field to tell us a little bit about what we should be looking at. And we have some experts that are voting in the poll rankings. It's not just me, as y'all said, but the unique thing about this poll ranking, James Wesby, just so you know, and I'm sure you've heard about it, but for those that are tuning in and may not, give me a chance to refresh everybody. This is HBCU marching sport. And so when we do our poll ranking, it's just not about those fan bases out there getting people to collectively vote and getting these fan representation and see who has the strongest base about supporting. This is about the sport, meaning head-to-head matchup. Somebody wins, gets a W, somebody loses. So all we look at all season, week to week, are band matchups. And they're HBCU matchups. So that's what is key here. We did have the intro in terms of you have these marching band frameworks or whatever. And so you had the Houston Battle of the Bands, if you would, down there, the National Battle of the Bands. And so that it was 18. So we had the first 4 top ones that came out of that. We matched them up with teams, and you either got a win or you got a loss. So you could have been strong with your band performance, but you were matched up with somebody and either you won it or you lost. And ever since then, we waited for matchups. And then we told bands, if you want to have in the rankings, you want to win or loss, you need to travel with your team. You need to get out there, get on the road, and you need to travel. So we're going to see what that looks like. So let's get into this poll ranking. Now you know the framework of it. We're going to let you know. Let's start out with the top 10. So we're going to start out with the top first 6 teams in the poll rank. So the first one is North Carolina A&T. We had some teams that didn't drop out this week and have some teams receiving votes. North Carolina Central, to name one of them. But at number 10, you have North Carolina A&T, the blue and gold marching machine. They're 1-1. They've only had 2 HBCU matchups, so that's where they stand. At number 10, they stay at number 10 this week with 10 points. At number 9, you have Alabama State Mighty marching Hornets, 3-2 on the season, 1-2. So you see, they've gotten on the road and they've had several HBCU marches. They've had some close games. They even got on the road and got some house, but it wasn't enough to get it done. But it's sitting at 3-2, 1-2, 13 points. At number 8, you have Alcorn State, which is the Sounds of Dynamite thing. 3-1 on the season, 2-1. They have had some tough matchups, but they've gotten it done. 16 points, ranked number 8. You have number 7, Prairie View A&M. Marching Storm started out pretty hot, but they've slipped in terms of the last game. They haven't had a lot of travel games. So they're just 2-1 in the ranking. And that's all conference games they've been a part of. So they sneak in there with 47 points. At number 6, surprised a lot of people, mid-major program, if you would call it that, out of the Division II ranks. They had the upset of the year thus far, beating Tennessee State. They sitting at 5-0, 3-0. They've traveled quite a bit against their Division II foes and have gotten into some games. They had Central State twice, but make sure you think about that. They sit at 5-0, 3-0 in their conference race. They're getting it done. So that's the first 5, the bottom programs as we go 6 to 10. Let's get into the top 5 rankings where there are some changes because of some battles that took place. Sitting at number 5, Bethune-Cookman, the Marching Wildcats are 2-0, but they've been barely hanging on to that, and you see them starting to slip because they just haven't had enough band competitions. They do have that big one coming up in the Florida classes. We'll see if that means anything. But they're 2-0, right? 58 points. None of them have been conference matchups thus far. And at number 4, you have Norfolk State, the Spartan Legion Marching Band, 3-1, 1-0, quietly climbing up, getting it done. They were previously ranked 5, so they bumped up. At number 3, you have Jackson State, the Sonic Boom of the South. Did not play this weekend. They've been dominating the rankings. They were previous number 2. They've had that early loss they had against FAMU, but they've been undefeated since then, but they sit at 5-1, 3-1. 2 first place vote. At number 2, you have FAMU to marching 100, 4-1. They were previously undefeated, took their first loss, some people say, down there in Baton Rouge. Of course, according to this poll ranking, they still have 3 first place votes just outside of the number 1 spot at 84 points. Previously ranked 1, so they fall. The number 1, a new number 1, Southern Human Jukebox at 6-0, 4-0, 3 first place vote, 88. Previously ranked 3. What's beautiful about this, it will play out on Saturday, at least for number 1 versus number 3. We get that quintessential matchup. Some people call it the Boom Box Classic. Not only do you have the football game against 2 heated rivals, but you got 2 of the top bands, and they go head to head. Wesby, while I see you consternating, you ready to go, we're going to make you hold your water a little bit. We're going to bring it to Charles Bishop and let him see what he has to say. And then we're going to tune you loose, James, and let you bring the noise and tell us.
Let's see what Charles
how much
has.
you love about the poll rankings if you want to get invited back to the show. No, just kidding. Do what you got to do.
Well, I tell you what, I thoroughly enjoyed FAMU and Southern getting together last week. You know, we always talk about styles make fights, and it was an interesting fight with regards to FAMU and Southern going at it last week. And I had it as a toss-up because I enjoyed some of the selection FAMU had, especially in the 5th quarter. But Southern just they are the kind of the total package this year. I see where they are number 1. This should be a fun one this weekend. It's the Boombox, Jackson State, and Southern. Wesby, hey bro, let's take a look at this matchup because I know I sat in the stands maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and there was literally a thunderstorm that came that descended on Mississippi Veterans Memorial Stadium. They cleared out everybody in the stadium, but the bands would not go anywhere. It is intense. It is a rivalry. Talk to me a little bit about Jackson State versus Southern.
Well, first, this is clearly the most anticipated battle of the year. First and foremost, let's give a little golf clap to FAMU for traveling to Southern. But they got spanked so hard, I couldn't even bear to see the rest of the 5th quarter. That was a brutal display. However, FAMU, I appreciate FAMU because one, the identity that we spoke about FAMU, they did a phenomenal job coming and not position themselves like a true SWAC band. Now, they have a lot to learn in 0 quarter, understanding how to get hype. You can't be playing on marches in the 5th quarter, in 0 quarter. That's first and foremost. That's all about getting your band hype or whatever. But this Southern and Jackson State is going to be a great battle. When the last time, I think, Chuck, you said the last time they saw each other was at Memorial Stadium, right?
Yeah, that was a year that I think I remember there was a thunderstorm. That was
That's right. That's right. So they have a lot of baggage they want to get out. I think FAMU was a good tester for SU, and they played some of the songs out the bag, and I think Jackson State played some stuff out of the bag at Mississippi Valley. So I think both of them had a little boxing match before the heavyweight boxing title this weekend. This will determine to me who is number 1 and who is number 2 out of these rankings. I think FAMU will, handle their business with Bethune-Cookman, but the big mega heavy hitters is going to be this weekend with Jackson State and Southern. I really appreciate Alcorn. I hate that they're number 8. I would have probably personally placed them number 4 because of their arrangements and what they have displayed this year. I'm very impressed. Not to take away anything from Norfolk State. They're very clean, always been a clean band. But Alcorn, if not number 4, got to be the most improved band this year. So hats off to Alcorn this year. Alabama State, you have little Justin out there. Justin, if you see this, man, you could have came to Jack State and became drummer. No, I was just kidding. That's the drum major out there. Yeah, everybody's been looking for Justin, anticipating him marching in the SWAC, and he's done a great job out there as an assistant, band director. Drum major. Alabama A&M, we never mentioned those guys. I think they had a pretty solid year, but I think you guys said it best. If these guys don't travel, then they won't be able to get ranked. They got to travel, and that's why I appreciate FAMU taking that travel to Southern and placing them in a high position this year. So,
great points made there. This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Mr. Wesby, can you stick around for a couple of more minutes to give just a couple of more questions and frameworks? I love the way you broke that down. Now, I want to ask about maybe a couple of more bands to see your thoughts in terms of how they did thus far in the year and maybe where you think they should be in the ranking. But let's take this quick break. We'll be right back after this break. This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We have none other than Mr. James Wesby, former drum major of the Sonic Boom of the South, breaking down what he thinks about the marching sports poll from Dr. Cavil's Inside and those that are voting on it. At this point, we might start including him in as a voting person to see what's going on. We have to bring Polly in as well and let him start voting in this poll because this thing is taking off. People have some interest in this. With that, we'll be right back.
I love it.
Of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We do it differently here. Win or loss, it's the marching sport. You got to travel and you got to have some fun. HBCU band contest. You can't just ask your fans to vote and think that's going to work. Not here. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival. This is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together we can be the change.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Test the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We have none other than Charles Bishop, the professor, in the house. And we have Mr. James Wesby, former drum major of the Sonic Boom of the South. Man, Charles, look what I got.
I see. Got the slow burn over there.
Goddamn. You know, this is what happens when, the sponsors take care of you. This is so I can send out championship. Wesby, since you came on, I haven't seen you going down there.
There you go.
Sonic Boom come out of the poll number one, it's a little
yes,
bit of
sir.
celebration. Or
right.
Coming out of this big battle of the bands this week for the marching sports, somebody's got to win and lose. The winner's going to get the cigar, the smoke, and sit back and say, yeah, my band did that. Just saying. With that coming in, and I know, Charles, you wanted to do a follow-up question. Let's jump into that now.
Yeah, James, I wanted to ask this question because I think you brought something out really interesting. There is a complete strategy to either zero quarter or the fifth quarter. Talk a little bit about that in terms of how band directors kind of approach these two, periods within where bands get an opportunity to go against each other.
Yeah, you make a good point, Charles, because the zero quarter is simply a hype situation for not only the band, but the fans, as well as the football team as they out there practicing. They want to hear that hype. What is the latest songs that's going on with Travis or whoever have the latest and the greatest? And this is the quarter that you simply, I mean, you find yourself listening to these songs, and it's about dominance. It's you're going to hear loud blasting, come, let's battle, let's get hype. What do you got? Let's talk noise. Band directors talking noise to one another. That's just like the football team before the game. They're going to talk. They're going to have the head coaches looking at each other, and it's going to be let's go. So when you deal with first quarter or the zero quarter, there are two bands that just, if you're not coming with it, then I'm sorry. And that's Southern and Jackson State. That's why this is going to be some type of battle. Another thing, you got to come into the stadium early enough to sit down, to warm up, play what you have to do to play up, and be ready to go to war. If not, then I'm sorry. Southern is going to blast on you, and that's it. Now, transitioning to zero quarter, that's all about arrangements. That's all about strategically playing certain music and bringing you, fifth quarter I'm talking about, and bringing you to my home, and then I'm just going to, make you some warm grits or whatever and pour it on your face because you don't know how to play. That's what happened when I was talking about with FAMU and Southern this weekend. FAMU came in and they played some classic music. The arrangements could have been a little bit better, but I appreciate FAMU playing these classical music. But guess what? Southern has something even better for them. And the arrangements was spectacular to the point that it was like, you're dealing with a heavy hitter. Next time, come back and position yourself. And FAMU is going to learn from this, Bethune-Cookman as well, if they ever travel. This is a learning scenario for them. Give them about 2 or 3 years. I see FAMU is going to be definitely in the top 3 like they are right now. What's killing them is stands. They are phenomenal in halftime. No doubt about it. They're probably one of the best when dealing with halftime shows. But when they're dealing to battle in front of me, Southern Jackson State is the premier bands. I would say Alcorn has done a great job. Man, that battle with Alcorn and Southern was probably the best thus far before we even got, starting with Jackson State and Southern. But I love that that Alcorn and Southern battle. That was tip top from zero quarter and fifth quarter. So I really appreciate that. But it is a strategy. And if you don't understand that strategy, you will get beat. And Southern is a perfect example of how I'm going to play with you hard. Then I'm going to settle and play a Jill Scott with the best arrangements. And I got you, because that's what the fans are going to remember the most.
Wow. Perfect breakdown. So let's take it to the next one before we let you know. I know your schedule is busy and you were rushing in to get in here and got some things you got to do, but we appreciate you taking out that time and giving us a different perspective of when we say wins and losses, what does that look like? Because the folks that are voting in this are former drum majors as well, from different areas, different bands that have similar type of thought process. And so they're voting on this to give you that perspective, including myself. So I wanted to go with Prairie View. Obviously, people didn't see the Prairie View Grambling, but many people may have saw the Prairie View Texas Southern Labor Day Classic. Your thoughts in terms of what they've done this year. The next one I want you to look at, you spoke on a little bit, is Bethune-Cookman. If you can tie them in, their matchups. They only had 2, so you may want to wait until that classic with them and FAMU to give us some breakdown on that. But the other one that a lot of people have talked about is Norfolk State, the Spartan Legion Marching Band, and some of their marches and how they've been really put out there. But people are not familiar with them. Obviously they don't see them a lot in terms of where they located outside of the SWAC. In terms of that, they did come into the national Battle of the Bands in Houston. So a lot of people saw them one of the first times in this, and we're really excited what they brought to the table. Also, North Carolina A&T, people may be a little more familiar with that. Looking at them, obviously their concerns have been in the fact with them transition to the Big South, they only have a few HBCU matchups. You get another big one this weekend where they play the rival, not in terms of the football game, but they play South Carolina State. So that's another chance they have to make another statement. So any of those or a couple of those, if you would, let me know your thoughts in terms of what they've done this year and to some degree Do you agree or disagree where they're ranked in the poll ranking?
Well, North Carolina A&T, you got to typically you'll position them in the top 5, being probably 5th. They've always had a solid program, and like you said before, when I was marching in the band, I didn't even know the band. We never saw North Carolina A&T, never. But they're getting a little bit more exposure that a lot of people are seeing when you're dealing with the top bands of who we just discussed. If they were to play those guys and visit them, then we can probably see them a little bit more. That's your Prairie Views. Well, not Prairie View, but North Carolina A&T and Norfolk State. Those are the two I'm actually talking about. Prairie View has always been up and down, but as it relates to inconsistency, but they have potential. They have the potential to be there right at number 3 and number 4. I always say, the top is Southern, Jackson State, FAMU, but the 4th has always been up for grabs. And I thought that Prairie View would probably come in this year with that opportunity to grab that 4th spot, including North Carolina A&T and Norfolk State. Bethune-Cookman actually slid off in the last 2 years. I think that spanking that Jackson State did to them probably a couple years ago at Atlanta broke their hearts. So I think they still heartbroken and couldn't never bounce back from that. But on the other side, I still think that Alcorn should be there. Alcorn was back in the days was one of the bands that, you had to really prepare for. Then they slipped big time. And this year I give them the most improved, hoping that they will continue that leverage that momentum into next year to place the number 4. So number 4 is up to grab. Unless FAMU just dip down like they did a few years ago, but it's always going to be Southern, Jackson State, or FAMU. And number 4, we got to get it with Prairie View, North Carolina State, or Norfolk State, or Alcorn.
Love it. Appreciate the breakdown. Appreciate your times, Mr. James Wesby, Brother Wesby, as we say around these parts. Again, we're going to go to this break, and we'll come back, and we'll get back on the football side of things. Hope you enjoyed this breakdown, special edition of the marching sport in terms of what we did here. And again, shout out to Mr. James Wesby, former drum major of the Sonic Boom of the South. Intriguing, and told you about this matchup and what to look at when you really talking about understanding the marching sport poll rankings, wins and losses in terms of 0 quarter, halftime, and the 5th quarter. What do the band people really talk about when they have that homage? Shout out to G. Boom Holly. He's in here giving some game. He's a former drum major, Prairie A&M, University of the Marching Storm. We have drum majors, again, all over the place, giving us some updates. So shout out to those involved. Appreciate the support and love again. We'll be right back after this quick break. Thank you.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Will with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. As I said, Mike Washington, Professor Washington is on assignment doing some little travel, extended travel in terms of study abroad. You never know where Mike is. You know, he claims he's taking these students on these study abroad, but I don't know. I think he's just missing in action sometimes. It is Veterans Day, so celebrate. Shout out to Mike Washington as he's done his thing, and all the other veterans associated with HBCUs, particularly, but all of them in general perspective. With that being said, let's get into it. I want to do a little mid-major. We can wrap this up, and jump right into it. But I want to give some love to independent major division program classic, like the Battle of the AMEs. A lot. We have Edward Waters, Tigers 3-7. Allen Yellow Jackets 4-4. They'll be in the SIAC as they move forward, as both of them are transitioning in different ways. Edward Waters 3-7, Yellow Jackets 4-4. Tell me, this is in South Carolina. Who's going to win this game? What are your thoughts on that? Just go there for me, Charles. Who you got?
Let's go with Allen on this.
You going with Allen, the home team?
The home team.
Yeah, Water folks is gonna sneak out there and say something about you. I see.
I go.
Can Langston bounce back? They are at home. W.E. Anderson Stadium Saturday. As we get done here, they've dropped 2 in a row. They're still ranked 5th in the poll rankings, but they've dropped for 70 in the NIA poll. But they need this to put themselves in range of the playoff bid, particularly, but in even any shot in terms of winning the conference championship. They have the only win against the one-loss team Ottawa Spirits up there, but it's Southwest Assembly coming in 5-3, 4-2, so they do have a winning record in terms of the Lions. Can the Lions of Langston get it done in this matchup at home, at least to close out the season in a strong way after starting so strong? What are your thoughts in terms of this matchup, Charles?
Yeah, Langston with their back up against the wall and playing at home. I look for them to get the W in this one. It's been a surprise in the past couple of weeks in terms of Langston losing games. We're not used to this, but I think in this one, we'll see Langston go ahead and get the W and position themselves to where they need to be.
Let's jump into the major division independent game. Big South versus MEAC. This is major in a lot of ways. North Carolina A&T is 4-5, 3-3. They've dominated the MEAC the last several years, won the Celebration Bowl. South Carolina State has been right there. It's a borderline rivalry between states. South Carolina State Bulldogs are 5-4, 4-0. They have their chance in their last game to go undefeated in the MEAC and represent. You talk about going into the championship game 6-4, if in terms of maybe 7-4, or just going in possibly 6-5, or how will this move out? What do you think in this matchup? A&T wants to show that they continue to dominance even in the Big South. It's a good chance for the MEAC in itself to make a statement about the Big South. I'm intrigued about this matchup in so many different ways. What are your thoughts?
Very intriguing matchup because like you said, I think South Carolina State wants to get a little payback on the Aggies and get the W this weekend. I've been wanting to throw dirt on South Carolina State the past 2-3 weeks, but they've been doing a nice job, I think, of playing much better football. Give me the Bulldogs in this one to get the win over A&T.
Yeah, we got a couple people say Bulldogs by 4. People are not believing in the Aggies as much as they used to.
Yeah,
they'll show that they're not dead yet. They did have the bounce back win, stopped their losing streak there, and so it'll be interesting. They are on the road. It's always tough to play in Orangeburg, no matter what's going on. Oliver C. Dawson Stadium. This one to me would be intriguing in just a lot of ways. I do have South Carolina State jumping into the top 5 this week. It'll be fascinating to see what that all means moving forward. Let's go to the MEAC in terms of what's going on and go a little further into some of these teams. You have Morgan at Albany, Norfolk State at Delaware State, North Carolina Central at Howard. We told you about the tiebreakers. Of those, anyone jump out at you?
What jumps out at me is Norfolk State and Delaware State. I need to see can they bounce back from that surprising loss last week to North Carolina Central. So give me the Fighting Dawson Odoms to go up to Delaware State and get the W.
I also am curious about Morgan State. Both of these teams have won. Loss is another opportunity for MEAC in terms of non-conference play. Morgan State got that big win. They had a couple of extra days to prepare. But Albany State, the Great Danes, they have a running back that will push the rock. So it'll be interesting in terms of the strength of the skill and see if Morgan State, the Bears, continue to take that next step. The other one is interesting is North Carolina Central had that protect homecoming win. They really mixed things up and kind of threw Norfolk State Spartans in a must-win situation. So I'm intrigued about this. Howard is a tough, gritty team. It hasn't necessarily showed in the number of wins, but they've been right in these games, whether it's South Carolina State or whether it was Norfolk State, the two teams that seem to be leading the division. They've been right in even some of their non-conference games. One of their wins is a non-conference win. So I'm fascinated to see what this looks like. North Carolina Central needs some additional help, obviously, but they're looking to see if they can at least get a share of the championship. So I'm fascinated with that. Let's get back to the SWAC as we get into it. I'm going to save our major division rivalry game of the week, if you would, for last. But I want to get into some of these other SWAC matchups. Obviously, we talked about the SWAC game of the week in regards to Prairie View at Alcorn, so we won't go over that one. But you have a couple of other interesting ones to me. Bethune-Cookman, after their big win, they have to hit the road. They go to Grambling. Grambling's struggling a little bit. You have Bethune-Cookman at 1-8, obviously. But Grambling, off a tough loss to Pine Bluff, are 3-6. Any thoughts in terms of this matchup, Joe?
Yeah, I think the big thing is who's going to be under center for Grambling. You saw John Paul Pierce came in last week and really kind of moved the ball a little bit. He also threw for 189 yards for Grambling and got them on the board with a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. But I'm going to take Grambling at home, get the win over Bethune-Cookman.
Alabama State all but had Prairie View on the ropes. They were on the road. This was after the coach got released. Shout out to Dr. Hill Ely. He's over there and landing on his feet at Georgia Tech. So I did want to give him his kudos in terms of being able to find a way to stay involved in changing the lives of young men. But you have Alabama State in terms of the interim coach from the defensive coordinator traveling Mississippi Valley. Valley had their first big loss since they had played a series of close games with some wins involved, including that big win they had early against North Carolina Central in terms of non-conference win. But they've been right in the mix. But Alabama State is 3-5. Valley comes in at 2-7. They are back at home, and you know what they say about that grass field. Can they turn it back on after they had that tough loss to Alabama A&M? It really took them to the woodshed to some degree. Alabama State, the Hornets at the Delta Devils. What do you say about this matchup?
Tough matchup. It's always tough traveling to Itabena. Caleb Johnson, I think Mississippi Valley gets that running game up and going against Alabama State. I'm going to go with Valley with a little mild upset to get the win over Alabama State.
I see it, yes. FAMU, they want to win out. They want to still put the pressure on Jackson State. This is a chance. If it's going to start, it has to be this weekend with Southern defeating Jackson State. We'll talk a little bit about that later. We've had all our lab lecturers going back and forth and saying who they believe going to win that game. But let's turn it to the Rattlers. We talked a little bit about on the band side, but you got Pine Bluff. Pine Bluff got a big win last week. No longer winless in terms of conference play. And so you have FAMU at 7-2 overall, 2-7. Obviously 6-0 in the conference race. They need this win to stay within it. Plus, they have playoff aspirations, and they're right on the edge of the top 25. This would go in a lot of ways, depending on what those teams do in the bottom. They keep doing their part in winning. They have a chance to maybe get in that top 25, which means you would have 3 SWAC schools in there because you have Jackson State that's been in there for a while. Prairie View has entered into the ranks on many of the national FCS top 25 polls. But what do you think about this Rattlers at the Golden Lions matchup this week?
Still a lot on the line for FAMU, and that's the reason why I'm leaning toward the Rattlers in this one. Defense travels, and we saw last week they were able to pitch a shutout against Southern in the second half where they really kind of shut down the Southern running game and made them one-dimensional. But it looks like Skylar Perry has kind of found his mojo a little bit. Had a huge game last week against Grambling. Threw for 160 yards, ran for another 146. That makes him dangerous. That keeps UAPB in the game, I think, in the first half. But I think a little bit too much Bishop Bonnet, Rashawn McKay in the second half. I'm going with the Rattlers.
Gotcha. Let me go with the next one, Alabama A&M. Bulldogs seem to right the ship last couple of weeks, and they certainly continue to put up points as they have done for the most of the season. Texas Southern Tigers, they put up some points too. Freshman quarterback still getting done body. Showed the first half that he had what it takes in terms of even when he's not on his full on game, if you would allow me to use that framework in terms of doing it with his arms, but he can also do it with his legs. And he snuck around, put up points. They were able to run the ball a little bit. Can they get it done at home? This is the last home game. Can they shock the Bulldogs in this matchup in Houston, Texas? Or do you say the Bulldogs continue to do what they do in representing how strong the East is? What are your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, $1 million question with this is, can Texas Southern keep scoring with Alabama A&M? I don't think either defense can really stop the offense. The question is, can everybody in that Texas Southern offense, can they continue to keep going blow for blow with this tough Alabama A&M offense, which is still number one offense in the SWAC? I think I still have to go Bulldogs on this. Still a little bit too much of Quill Glass. Still, and those outlaw receivers. A little bit too much for the Texas Southern defense.
Got it. Keep the comments coming. I see you out there telling me what you think of these matchups. I love it. Lab lectures getting into it. Dwight Moore, K. Johnson, Dwight Moore, Price out here. I see you. Keep it rolling. Give me those updates and let me know your thoughts. AD Drew, Division II HBCU football scenarios in terms of playoffs. Great article talking about just how deep the pool is potentially for those. We focus on, obviously, the teams at the top and those potentially getting home games with is Bowie State as well as Albany State in terms of the matchup, but you have some other teams. Miles can even find a way maybe to get in there. Fayetteville State, those teams that are in the championship game. Then you have Savannah State as well on the outside looking in. But those are things that could see a flood of HBCUs in Division II playoffs. So go check out that article, BCSN, letting you know there. Let me get back into it. What a lot of folks want to hear about is this Baton Rouge matchup between two legendary programs. Let's be frank about it. Southern came in with a lot of fanfare, but it's Jackson that is getting the best of it. They're currently ranked number one in most polls. HBCU's clearly number one in my poll. Jackson State 8-1, 6-0. They want to close it out this weekend. They want to get that losing streak off their backs. They're on the road. Baton Rouge, you're talking about a classic way to get it done if they can. Can Southern Jaguars 4-5, 3-3? Can they continue the streak, or will Jackson State end it? What are your thoughts in terms of this matchup, Professor Bishop?
De facto bowl game for the Jaguars. This is their celebration bowl, taking on Jackson State this weekend. Still the number one ground and pound attack in the SWAC. And that's going to make for a tough battle with this Jackson State defensive line. Past couple of weeks, we've seen a chink in armor with regards to Jackson State's defense in terms of stop and run. Caleb Johnson ran for 400 yards, and Ladarius Owens almost went for 200 last week against Jackson State. So I think a little bit of concern there. I think Jackson State has to refocus in terms of stop and run because they've been one of the best, I think, in the nation with regards to stopping teams. Only 13 touchdowns have been scored on Jackson State this season. I don't see Southern putting up more than 21 points in this game. Jackson State does have the ability to score points. We've seen that. So that's why I lean towards Jackson State getting this victory on the road, breaking that 8-game losing streak in Baton Rouge this weekend.
Ooh, it should be fascinating. It should be one to watch. Don't want to leave out Hampton and Tennessee State. That's the thing when you're not in these HBCU matchups. They are in the top 10. They did both in terms of Hampton, as well as A&T in the Big South have bounce back wins last weekend. Hampton 4-5 on the season, and Camels at 3-6. So that's one to watch. Keep your eyes on that. Obviously, you have Tennessee State as they play Austin Peay. This is the second time they played Austin Peay. This one counts in terms of the conference standings. So I think that's an interesting one to check out. Charles, let them know the pregame show. Y'all be live in Baton Rouge. Talk a little bit about when you expect for people to tune in and how they can find out when y'all going to give it a go on Saturday.
Yeah, we're finalizing the schedule now with regards to, of course, we're traveling with the team, so we want to make sure that we give our fans all those live shots with regards to the team getting prepped and ready for this tough Southern Jaguar team. So I can tell you now we will go at some point Saturday, whether a little bit after 12 o'clock, maybe around 1 o'clock time, but I don't want to commit to a time, but we will be going live Saturday to kind of break down this Jackson State Southern matchup. It's a battle of wills. Like I said, Southern, the number one rushing attack in the SWAC. Jackson State is the #1 defense in the SWAC. They lead the nation in sacks. A lot of questions in this game, especially with Jackson State trying to stop that RPO attack last week from Texas Southern. I do expect to see a little bit more Ladarius Skelton this weekend. So,
slow burn, Waco.com. Cigars on the line for a big rivalry matchup like this, y'all. Want to see you light it up. We'll see if you get a chance, or you gonna pass the cigar over to some of your friends such as Carlos.
I tell you what, I'm gonna go ahead and unwrap my cigar now because I plan on smoking it Saturday night. So yeah, mine is coming out now. So
yeah, you understand the expectations, so they know where you come. I like it. Thank you.
Understand
for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Yeah, it's good, smells good. I like it. Keep listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. For all the lab listeners, I hope you enjoyed it. Appreciate you coming in, and make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab, College of HBCU Sports from Mike Watson, Charles Bishop. Hope you enjoyed our guest, Mr. James Wesby, breaking down the poll rankings this week for the marching sport. Again, we thank you for listening, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. Come into the lab. You know how we're doing it. Make sure next week you let us know. Go out there. We will have the Dean's office hours. Let me know if you want that on Wednesday. We'll break it in so you can get into some questions of the day and things that you want. Let us know how that looks. We can make sure you get in there and give us some updates in terms of your thoughts there. We do have a call-in number that you can call in. Give us some updates in terms of what that looks like. That call-in number is 678-459-4236. 678-459-4236. Call and leave a message. We'll get you on the air in terms of what your thoughts on that. So we're going to play that out, see if the demand is there. If you want it, we'll get into office hours. Some of these questions you have a lot on the business side, television stuff that we talk about in terms of those questions regarding tie scenarios and things that you want to know. We'll see if we can answer and get you the information. But with that being said, follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Of course.
Roy.
Lecture.
Dismiss. Man.